I'd like to call the regular council meeting for the town of Grand Bay-Westfield on Monday, November the 10th, 2025 to order at 7 o'clock p.m. We respectfully acknowledge that Grand Bay-Westfield exists on the traditional Woolstook land. The lands of Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woolstook, along which live Woolstook Way, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected representatives, pay respect to the elders, past and present, and descendants of this land. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. As Council reviews this year's proposed budget, I want to start by recognizing the hard work that's gone into it. Our staff has spent a great deal of time and care developing a plan that's responsible, transparent, and realistic. This year's budget has been driven almost entirely by inflation. The cost of doing business keeps rising, and the types of things that municipalities buy are different from the things that I would buy for my own home. Fuel, materials, insurance, labor, contracted services, they are all going up. These are challenges that every municipality is facing right now. And at the same time, we know that life is expensive for everyone. Groceries, housing, utilities, everything costs more. Council has had many conversations about that, and we've kept affordability top of mind throughout this entire process. So that being said, our goal has been to find the right balance to maintain the services and infrastructure that our residents rely on, while keeping any impact on taxpayers as modest as possible. We've worked very hard to find efficiencies and to delay non-urgent projects where we can, but we also have a responsibility to protect the quality of life, the safety, and the long-term sustainability of our town. So this is not an easy budget year, but it's a realistic one. We're focused on careful financial management, not just for today, but for the coming years, and on doing what's best for our community, both now and, as I said before, in the years ahead. I want to thank our staff for their diligence and professionalism, and thank our residents for their understanding and engagement through this entire process. So these are challenging times, and boy, I can't wait for the year when I can say these are not challenging times, but for the last few years they have been. But by working together, we'll continue to move our community forward responsibly and with care. And I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that Remembrance Day is just ahead of us. Each year we pause to honor the courage, the sacrifice, and service of those who have worn and currently wear our country's uniform. It's an important time to reflect on the freedoms that we enjoy, and these freedoms that were protected by people who gave so much at a great personal cost. As a town, we are deeply committed to ensuring our veterans and those who serve today are remembered and respected, not just on November the 11th, but throughout the year. In partnership with our local Legion, we've made meaningful investments in our Veterans Peace Park, a place of reflection and remembrance for all who visit, and we recently added a new Veterans Crosswalk to further recognize and honor those who served and continue to serve. So I'll be honored to join members of council, staff, and our residents at this year's Remembrance Day ceremony as we gather to pay tribute to our veterans and their families. It's one of the most important days of the year for our community, and I encourage everyone to take time tomorrow to pause, to reflect, and to give thanks, lest we forget. Move on to item 4, record of attendance. We have regrets from Deputy Mayor Toole and Councillor McIntosh Lawrence this evening. Item 5, agenda approval. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of November 10th, 2025 as presented. Do I have a mover? Councillor Bellmans, thank you. Councillor Balcom, thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. 6, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any? There being none, we'll move on to item 7, public hearings, presentations, delegations, petitions. There being none, we'll move on to item 8, and that's minutes of previous meeting. 8A, regular meeting of council October 27th, 2025. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of October 27th, 2025 as presented. Do I have a mover? Councillor Burpee, thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Bellmans? Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thanks. 8B, email poll I&I Phase 2. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield ratify the email poll I&I Phase 2. I have a mover, Councillor Bellmans, seconder, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thanks. Item 9, unfinished business. There being none. Item 10, bylaws. 10A, and this is GG-001, Council Procedures and Organizational Bylaw, second reading. I'll read the motion on the floor. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the second reading of GG-001, Council Procedures and Organization Bylaw, with the understanding that changes will be incorporated into the next draft reflecting Council's direction. Do I have a mover? Councillor Burpee, seconder, Councillor Balcom, thanks. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. And item 10B, PD-009-2B zoning bylaw amendment. And I'll read the motion, I'll ask the Deputy CEO to speak to it, and I assume that our development officer will take that, and then I'll open for questions. So the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive for information the Planning Advisory Committee's written views and unanimous recommendations supporting the adoption of bylaw number PD-009B-2, a bylaw in amendment of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield zoning bylaw number PD-009, and that the public hearing be held on November 24th, 2025 as scheduled. Do I have a mover? Councillor Bellmans, thank you. Do I have a second? Second, Councillor Burpee, thanks. And I'll pass this over to staff.
Thank you, Your Worship. So following normal procedures, proposed amendments were forwarded or brought forward to our Planning Advisory Committee. And I'll turn it over to our development officer to provide their feedback.
Thank you. The bylaw amendment went to the PC committee, and there was some healthy discussion around the items that were before. There was a few things that were raised that were discussed, and we feel that can be handled at staff level. So one was around what quantifies a traffic impact study, and the second was when would we actually use it. So to elaborate a little bit, there are some items in Transportation Association of Canada that provides guidelines for the traffic impact study. And this would also be performed by a professional engineer who is designated by the Association of Professional Engineers. And then also around when it is being used. They just wanted to clarify around, so sometimes they would approve a home business and whether or not that's an instance where it would be used, and we would just clarify that it's more for when we're gonna see larger developments and there's gonna be more traffic, if there's long intersections. It's not just traffic counts, there's actually a lot more that goes into that, and it would be for the larger developments.
Thank you, Danessa. Okay, so we have a motion on the table, and I will open the floor to questions. Councillor Balcom.
Just a comment, Your Worship. For clarity, PAC unanimously passed that recommendation, but also the cost of that traffic study is the responsibility of the developer. So big difference between a small development or a very large development. As an example, a large development could require the construction of sidewalk, curbs, and traffic lights. And all that would be not the town's responsibility, but the responsibility of the developer under the Subdivision Act.
Thank you for that comment, Councillor. Any other questions or comments on the motion? On that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? That motion is carried. Thank you. Item 11, new business recommendations, 11A, 2026 budget approval. The first one is 11AI, capital budget. I will read out the motion, get a mover and seconder, then turn it over to our CFO. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield move that the 2026 capital budget in the amount of $2,187,560 be adopted as presented. Do I have a mover? Councillor Murphy, thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Bailmans, thank you very much, and I will turn it over to the CFO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, we have brought forward the 2026 capital budget this evening. This is the same budget that was presented 2 weeks ago at our public presentation. It is just shy of $2.2 million. There's funding in here for projects related to transportation, emergency measures, fire rescue, recreation and facilities. Funding will come from a variety of sources. We have money directly from our general revenue fund. We are using capital reserves, provincial debentures, a new funding stream from the province of New Brunswick, the Capital Renewal Fund, which will give us $228,000 for 2026, and then the CCBF. Happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you, James. Any questions from council on the capital budget for 2026? There being no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? But the motion is carried, thank you. We'll move on to 11A or II, General Operating Fund. I'll read the motion and then open it up to the CFO. General Operating Fund. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approves the following. The sum of $9,446,900 will be the total operating budget of the local government of Grand Bay-Westfield for the 2026 fiscal year. The sum of $8,349,362 be the warrant to the local government for the 2026 fiscal year. The tax rate for Ward 1 will be 1.275 for the 2026 fiscal year. The tax rate for Ward 2 will be 0.7932 for the 2026 fiscal year. The council orders and directs the levying by the Minister of Local Government of said amount real property liable to taxation under the Assessment Act within the local government of Grand Bay-Westfield. Do I have a mover? Councillor Bailmans, thank you. That was seconded by Councillor Balcom. Thank you. I'll pass this over to the CFO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, the budget you have in front of you this evening is a culmination of many, many months of hard work. We started working on this in June. There was feedback and input from all department heads, community groups. Council provided feedback and input, and 2 weeks ago we had a public presentation where we spent 2 hours going through in depth the budget and how it related to the strategic plan. The budget we have presented represents a 3.8% increase over 2025. This is approximately $300,000 of additional money that's required. There was an assessment freeze from the province. However, we did have some new assessment dollars that made their way to us. There was $5 million in new assessments. That is new building and development in the community. While this is good, it generated $64,000 in additional revenue that we could utilise. That left a considerable gap, $240,000, that has to be made up for by existing residents. So a 3.8% increase, we have some additional dollars from new developments. It still leaves us with around a 2.9% increase for the average resident in their tax bill. That's not lost on administration. The cost of everything is going up. Unfortunately, that means as a town, the cost of us providing our services goes up as well. The services and goods that we purchase, they're subject to a little bit of a different inflation than the general consumer, and we've really felt that over the past few years. So administration worked hard to keep this increase at a reasonable level. There were some changes from the budget than what was presented 2 weeks ago. They're small. At that time, RCMP costs weren't known. We did find out our RCMP costs, and they were lower than what we expected. The Fundy Regional Service Commission, their budget was not approved at the time we presented. That has since been approved, and the costs of the town are slightly lower than what we anticipated at that time. We have made the prudent decision to take those savings and direct them to reserves. There are tougher years coming for this budget, and we need those reserve funds available to help with those challenges. We also asked for public feedback, and we received some feedback which was really appreciated. A lot of work goes into this, and it's not administration's budget, it's not council's budget, it's the community's budget. So they need to have input, so we appreciated the feedback that was received. I'm not going to answer every question, but just to give you a general feel of the inquiries that we had, there was a question on curbside garbage collection for Ward 1. Was that included in the budget? It was not included in the budget. The cost for that is considerable, and one of the questions that was asked in the budget survey for Ward 1 residents, would they be willing to pay for that service? And the majority, almost 2/3, said no. There were some inquiries from residents in Ward 2. They were unsure why their tax rate keeps climbing, and we spent some time in a public presentation going through the regulations that we follow. These are Government of New Brunswick regulations that dictate how the tax rate gets calculated in Ward 2. So the rate is up 5 cents, and it will continue to go up 5 cents for the next 3 to 4 years as we follow that regulation through. There was a question related to community vitality and if more funds have been allocated for that. The general theme of this budget was to maintain the existing services that we provide, so no additional funding was allocated to community vitality. There were additional dollars associated with some of the community groups that we fund, namely the RVCC, and in recent years we have doubled the funds available for community grants. I would, as a little shout out to the Recreation Programming Coordinator and the Director of Recreation, they have been extremely successful in sourcing grants and using those funds to provide programming and upgrading our facilities. There was a question on how do we ensure that employee compensation remains competitive to attract qualified employees. So Council has authorised compensation studies that are conducted every 4 years. We use this data along with inflation and cost of living data to inform us as part of our collective bargaining process. It was also, a part of the presentation, we talked about a hypothetical town with 3 houses and what would happen to their tax burden if they got 4 houses. And so we did have a couple of questions that residents appreciated that analogy, but we're more curious, what would the actual numbers look like if it was Bay-Westfield? How many more houses would we need in this town to start to feel the effects of growth decreasing the tax burden? So we crunched some numbers. So for 2026, if we wanted to decrease the tax burden for residents in Ward 1, we would need to increase the assessment base by $21 million, and that would have equated to approximately 52 houses that would be worth $400,000 each. So if 52 houses were constructed in the past year in Ward 1, the tax burden could have remained stable. It's a little bit more of a challenging question to answer in Ward 2 because of the regulations we follow as this tax rate stabilises between the two communities. But what we did is look out into the future and said over the next 5 years, how many houses would we have to build each year to start to flatten out that tax burden. So in Ward 1, we would have to average approximately 80 new homes per year, and these would be $400,000 homes, we use that as an average amount. And in Ward 2, it would be 15 houses per year for the next 5 years to start to flatten out any tax burden increases. So that gives people an idea of the size of growth that would be required in the community. There was also a question around one of the goals council have. So council has set out a goal for $200 million in new assessment growth. So the question was, so if we achieved our goal of $200 million in new assessment growth, how much additional revenue would that generate? So at the current tax rate, that would generate an additional $2.5 million. There would be costs incurred with having that much growth in the community, and that would equate to approximately 500 homes. So there would be a fair amount of other costs that would go with that, but it gives you an idea of the scale of dollars that that sort of growth could bring into the community. I'm happy to answer any other questions that come to me.
Thanks, James. Any questions or comments from council on the budget or James's presentation? Councillor Burpee?
I just have a comment, actually. I just want to say thank you for that information regarding the number of houses. Because if you look at the number in Ward 2, 15 houses a year is doable. So that's a good thing. Like, it's a positive, it's something that you can probably pull off if there was enough, you know.
It's not on a table.
No, it's not. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Day and Councillor Malcolm.
I'd like to thank you and your team for what you do to put the budget in, I'm going to call it phraseology, but in an educational, understanding way for the community. Numbers are not necessarily easy to understand and equate to the meaning, but your 3 homes and your 4 homes. And then tonight, with how many houses we'd have to build every year is sort of mind-boggling in some ways. We used to get excited when we had 20 homes built in a year. I can just imagine 80 and the impact it would have on the community if we had 80 every year. Because a lot of people move here because of the fact that they feel they're out in the country. And all of a sudden we'd have Crispam Sis on the west side of St. John. And so I'd like to thank you for all that your team has done for the budget and the sessions and the education in the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Malcolm?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to also echo Councillor Burpee's and Councillor Day's comments. I think staff and the finance department and department heads have done a fantastic job, especially in educating is too strong of a word, but in making it much more clear for both council and our residents to understand the process. Suffice it to say that the provincial freeze on our tax assessments negated our town's ability to keep up with inflation and the inflationary increases for our regular expenses. So you had a really tough job to try to find a way to overcome that inflationary increase. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. And we'll move on to 11A3, Storage and Utility. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the 2026 storage utility budget reflecting total revenue of $755,374 and total expenditures of $755,374 with a storage usage rate of $390 per unit effective January 1st, 2026. And do I have a mover? Councillor Bellman, thank you. Councillor Balcom, second. And I'll pass this again over to the CFO.
Thank you, Your Worship. So there are no changes to the budget that was presented 2 weeks ago at the public presentation. We did receive one piece of feedback from a resident. They were disappointed at the rate increase. This budget has to operate at a break-even point. It can't be subsidised by any other budget within the town. So we can't take general tax dollars and move it into this budget. It's a standalone budget. And the $10 represents a 3.5% increase. It's felt that this is a modest increase to keep things running. There are future challenges that the utility is going to face. We're currently conducting our I&I investigation, and it's anticipated that there will be some infrastructure upgrades that will need to occur in the future. One example of this is, and we talked about this at the presentation, is the curtain. So the curtain in the lagoon separates the cells and makes sure that the right processes in the water are taking place to process the effluent. And that curtain has a tear, it's ripped. So it's not operating, it's operating to the standard it's required to operate, but it's not operating optimally. So we need to replace that curtain. We received a quote today. It's $106,000 to replace that curtain, and we need to dip into our capital reserves to do so. That represents a good chunk of our capital reserves. So in order to make sure that this operation is resilient, we need to build up those reserves, and we need to make sure we have enough funds that when a curtain comes up for replacement, we don't have to use reserves, we can fund it through the operation. So $10, it's a small increase. We understand that, this will be felt by some residents. We can't rule out bigger rate increases in the future, unfortunately. We need to make sure that the operation meets standards and continues to operate, and there are costs involved with that.
Thank you, James. Do we have any questions for the CFO on the storage utility budget? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? That motion is carried. Thank you, and those are the budget approval motions here tonight. I want to thank Council for all of your hard work and diligence on this. And again, I know I referenced this in my opening remarks, but just again, thank you to James and Hannah and the CEO, the Deputy CEO, and everybody that's involved in putting this budget together. It takes months and months and months. And I know that there was a lot of time and care and consideration putting together this budget that tried to balance all of the pressures that the town is facing and that residents are facing. So thank you for that. We'll move on to item 11B, Q3 General Revenue Forecast, and I'll pass that over to the CFO again. You're on a lot tonight, James.
Yeah, if my voice runs out, I apologize in advance. So this is the third financial update for this year. We can report that expenses are close to what we had budgeted, and the good news is that revenues are slightly higher than expected. There's increased interest that we've earned, and then we've received a few additional grants. So the result is, at the moment, it looks like approximately a $90,000 surplus. This is good news, but we need to monitor our expenses closely as we wind down the year. There are still a number of projects that are ongoing, and we need to make sure that they stay on budget. As we get closer to the end of the year, we will be bringing forward recommended reserve transfers. There is one that will be recommended at the next meeting, and then our final ones at the last meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, James. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the general revenue 2025 third quarter financial report as presented. By the mover, Councillor Day.
No. Oh, sorry, I thought it was comments.
Yeah, no, did you want to move that? Did you want to
Yes.
move that? And a second by Councillor Balcom, that's great, and I will open the floor to questions, Councillor Day.
Actually, it's a comment, and I know we've just done the budget, and for anyone out there who thinks $90,000, oh, they raised the tax rate. And they didn't have to. Number one, that $90,000, we're not gonna really see it in the budgeting process until next year, if I'm correct?
2027.
Yes, 2027. Don't ask me how they flows, but that's the reality of it. $90,000. In the big scheme of things, if you just think of the fact that our chief financial officer just stated that a curtain for the lagoon is gonna cost us $103,000. And it could be a lot more than that by the time we go to do it. It's nice that we've got the potential of $90,000, but I used to be reminded by David Casey, things could change in a heartbeat. So I know we just did the budget, and I know somebody who might be watching thinking, oh, they didn't need to put that up after all. Well, that's not the way it works. And number two, things can really happen between now and our last meeting. So $90,000 is not a whole lot of money for the town to do all the things that we've been doing. So that's my comment.
Appreciate that, Councillor. Any other questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. 11C, Q3 Storage Revenue Forecast. I'll read the motion and open the floor. The motion is that the council, actually we haven't received it yet, so you present and then I'll do the motion.
Thank you. So we are currently projecting a small deficit for 2025 in the sewer revenue fund, approximately $17,000. This outlook has improved since the middle of the year. It was looking like over $30,000 deficit, so some good news there. The Works Department's done a great job at stretching the dollars and making things work. So the deficit is primarily caused because we purchased some additional parts for the lagoon. These parts were they were no longer manufacturing these parts. We were able to purchase them. And so we kind of stockpiled a little bit. It's really going to help us in the long run. So that's the real reason that we're looking at a deficit. We do have reserve transfers built into the budget that can be utilised to minimise the eventual deficit or the bottom line at the end of the year. So in December, we'll be recommending that those reserve transfers are lower than what's budgeted for to make up the difference here. And we'll bring that forward at the December council meeting.
Thanks, James. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the sewer revenue 2025 third quarter financial report as presented. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Burpee, a second, Councillor Bellmans. Any questions or comments on the motion? I have just a quick question on the parts, James, if that's okay. I know we stockpiled them because they may no longer be available. Were they subject to potential tariffs as well?
I'd have to check with Chris, were they tariffed or? No. Yeah, it was unclear that the stage that they were purchased was much earlier in the year, and the situation around tariffs was a little grey at that point, but it was certainly probably mitigating any future impacts that we could face.
Yeah, so it's not.
I think it was for overstock, we can't get overstock anymore, so we upgraded some book down,
Yeah.
hard to find.
Right.
Remember that.
Yeah, no, I just was wondering if we were also trying to mitigate potential tariff impacts as well. Thank you. So any further questions or comments? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. We'll move on to 11D, CCBF, a plan amendment. And the motions that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the town of Grand Bay-Westfield updated 5-year capital investment plan for the Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF 2024-2028 be adopted. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Burpee, in a second. Councillor Bellamans, and I'll pass this over to the Deputy CEO.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in 2026, this is the third year, the 5-year Canada Community Building Fund agreement. At the beginning of the agreement, we were required to provide a 3-year plan for how the funds would be allocated. However, we do have the option of changing the plan as new information is brought on. Since that time, the Works Department does have some new tools in place. So they're recommending some changes to the remaining 3 years, and I'll let the Public Works Superintendent provide all details.
Thank you, Council, Your Worship. So we submitted a 5-year plan in 2024. In 2025, we saw roads at Panamac, Tonganet, McClub, Drive, Tilsley, and Hillendale will resurface. For the years 26, 27, 28, using our road AI data and our asset management tool, we were able to kind of relocate or reallocate some priorities on resurfacing. So those streets have been, laid out in the next 3 years. So in 2026, you'll see Valley View, base and asphalt resurfacing. 2027, base and asphalt resurfacing of Florence Drive. And in 2028, a portion of Morningside Crescent and Wassing Lane. So these are complete base and asphalt construction projects.
Thank you, Chris. I will open the floor up to questions for staff. Any questions from council? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. And 11E, fiscal capacity funding, I'll pass that over to you, Troy.
Thank you. So this is a receive and file item for council. So basically the province is replacing the community utilization grant. This will include a new formula. One item to note is under the old program in 2021, we received approximately $650,000. This has basically steadily been going down every year since, and under this new program by 2029, that funding will go down to 0.
Okay, let's start, thank you.
The next item brings it up a little bit.
Alright, the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented. Do I have a mover? Councillor Balcom, do I have a second? Councillor Belmans, any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. 11F, capital renewal funding. That's right.
So this is also a receive and file item on a new funding program, which I'll turn over to the CFO because he has the best capacity to describe it.
So this is new funding. As mentioned when we presented the capital budget, we are receiving money under this program in 2026. So the government of New Brunswick is trying to close the infrastructure gap that exists in municipalities across the province. So they developed a new fund that they have a pool of money for 2026, and they're growing that fund out to 2029, where it will be approximately $95 million that's available for municipalities. And we're permitted to spend these funds on existing infrastructure and assets. So when items come to the end of their life, we can use this funding to help replace them. We can't use these funds for any new infrastructure or new assets. It's just existing ones that we have. They have a formula, there's a base amount, and then there's a portion based on the value of the assets that we have and the size of our assessment base. So our allocation for 2026 is approximately 230,000, and that will grow to around 390,000 in 2029. That's not set in stone, but that's what they've indicated our allocation will be once this program reaches maturity. There are reporting and planning requirements that you will need to adhere to receive funding. So just a heads up, there's more coming in the next few meetings on this. There's going to be lots of discussion. Much like the CCBF plan that was just amended, we'll need to develop a capital renewal plan on how the funds will be utilised, and that's due to be submitted to the province by December 15th of 2025. So we don't have long to develop that plan. So we'll be bringing forward a recommendation to Council at the December 8th meeting. Luckily, we have a really good 5-year capital plan. So we've started to look at that plan and identify some items that we can utilise the funding for. Beyond that, so into 2026 and beyond, the province will be bringing in some asset management requirements that we'll need to implement. We have an asset management plan. Last year we used some Housing Accelerator Fund to update our tracking sheet that we have. From the initial information we have, there will be enhancements that need to be made to our program. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, James. I will put the motion on the table and open the floor. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented. Do I have a mover? Councillor Murphy, thanks. A second. Councillor Bellmans. Any questions or comments? Councillor Day.
When you say assets, do you mean our roads? Just equipment, buildings, like what does that cover so our citizens
So yes, roads definitely qualify. There are, I'll go through the list. So roads will qualify, buildings qualify, vehicles, equipment qualify. There are, we can use it to what they say build capacity. So if we need studies done, or if we need to spend money on our asset management plan itself to help track things, we can use the funding in that regard. So it's a fairly wide list of where you can spend the money, and a short list of where you can't. Anything new.
Good, thank you. So even replacing culverts?
If it's an asset that is owned by us and it's at the end of its life, it can. There are limitations on other programs. So if it's been funded by the provincial municipal highway program, we can't use these funds to pay our portion of that work.
Oh, okay,
So there's limitations. Different programs have different rules on where the money comes from. So if there's any projects that are getting other funding, that has to be looked into and cleared first. But it was definitely mentioned that the provincial municipal highway partnership is not compatible with this program. The government want us to accelerate the rate that we're renewing our assets.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments on the motion?
So
Councillor Bell.
you expect on this so you mean the main drag is the culverts and stuff? You have side streets that we replace those, or
Yeah.
the main street can't?
So the Main Street Route 177 has its own program. that we apply for funding, and then we pay 19% of that. We can't use this grant to pay our 19% share, we still have to use our own.
So you use my little stuff or any other street in there to help?
Seeing no further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thanks. 11G, Remembrance Day Parade Road Closure. I'll read the motion and pass it over to staff. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve a temporary road closure of Woolstook Drive between River Valley Drive and Highlands Road from 10 a.m. until 12 noon on November the 11th, 2025. Under provisions of the traffic bylaw number 80, the organizers are to notify RCMP, DTI, ambulance, NB, and the fire rescue department to ensure continuity of services. Do I have a mover? Councillor Burpee, and do I have a second? Councillor Balcom, and I'll pass this over to staff.
Thank you. As your worship mentioned in the opening remarks, the annual Member State Services will be taking place tomorrow. So the organizers are looking to close the section of Woolstock immediately adjacent to the Peace Park to allow for room for the parade to march in and stage to take part in the ceremonies. We'll also leave room for the public to attend.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? That motion is carried. Thank you. We'll see everybody there tomorrow morning. Item 11H, Community Grants Fall Intake. And before I read the motion, I will pass this over to staff.
Thank you. Good news story is, as always, twice a year. So our recreation program coordinator has all the information.
Thank you, Worship Council. We were very fortunate to receive 12 applications that were deemed eligible this year. It was our highest intake so far since the community grant program began. Of those 12, 8 recipients are going to be getting the full amount that they asked for in the proposed budget. 2 will be receiving partial funding. Those 2 being Grand Bay Primary School receiving 25% of their funding requests for the indoor garden, and the Blue Mountain Rangers Army Cadet Corps receiving 97% of their requested funding, just to remain within the constraints of our budget, which is $6,000 allocated to community gardens. We keep seeing the increase with the community grant program. We see the upgrades with the community groups that are making around town. We keep encouraging groups to reapply each year, and we've seen some great progress. So we're very happy with how the groups have been using the community grant funding.
That's great. Thank you very much, Alex. I'll read the motion and then open the floor. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield award the community grants as follows. Number 1, 3034 Blue Mountain Rangers Army Cadet Corps Cadet Special Events, Flu Shot Clinic and Christmas Parade, $281.13. Number 2, Grand Bay Primary School Outdoor Exploration Learning Area, $1,000. 3, Inglewood School Sit, Watch, and Serve Community Volleyball Bench Project, $1,000. 4, Grand Bay Home and School Outdoor Garden Beds, $255. 5, Royal Canadian Legion 22 Veterans Banners, $1,000. 7, River Valley Middle School Home and School Outdoor Ice Rink, $948. 8, Westfield School Basketball Net number 2, $515.87. Do I have a mover? Councillor Bellmans, thank you. Do we have a second? Councillor Burpee? That's great. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? That motion is carried. Thank you. Just want to thank staff for going through all of this, and thank you, Alex. And I also want to thank our community grant volunteers for doing all the work to go through all of the applications and scoring them on the matrix, etc. That's a lot of work, and I really appreciate your engagement. And of course, thank you to all the community groups who applied and the ones that didn't, as well for all the work that you do to make our town a better place to live in. It wouldn't wouldn't be what it is without all of you, and I truly appreciate it. Now we'll move on to item 12, bills for payment. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the November 10th, 2025 bills for payment as presented in the amount for $958,822.62. And do I have a mover? Councillor Malcolm, thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Murphy. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 13, consent agenda. I don't have any items here on the agenda. One second. Thank you. Consent agenda. 13A, monthly animal control report, October 2025. 13B, RCMP policing budget. 13C, regional services support fund. 13D, letter thank you YMCA. 13E, letter re-sponsorship Spiritus Dinner. 13F, letter re-sponsorship Sophia Recovery Center. 13G, letter thank you Royal Canadian Legion. 13H, PAC minutes, April 7th, 2025. Do I have a mover? Councillor Murphy, do I have a second? Councillor Bellman, thank you very much. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 14, council report. Start with Councillor Bellman.
Really had none today, but I wanna say thank you to the person on Inglewood Drive for the Halloween, all the events put on there, all the trails and lots of cars. We buy 10, 15 cars every night for a while. I thank him for doing that for us, and it was good.
That's great. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murphy?
Thank you, Worship. So October 19th, I attended a meeting with the Westfield District Rec Association. It was a very long meeting. So some highlights from that. The second container at Four Corners is now in place. They are replacing some of the signage on the rink boards that didn't hold up very well. And it was just a lot of discussion on future plans and activities, and there's lots planned. October 21st, to youth council meetings, we have some new members and some returning members. So that's a very exciting, I'm happy to be helping out with that. October 23rd, I attended the UNMB virtual meeting. October 25th, as part of Fall Fest, I attended as well as Councillor McIntosh Lawrence which is on the water, down by the Westfield Ferry. It was a little chilly at first, but there was a good turnout still. And also other Fall Fest activities at the fire hall, the business group, the petting zoo, and also later that day powwow at Carter's TV station, which was outstanding. They just bring their folk culture and they show such pride. It's very inspiring. I love that. Then on the 26th, opening ceremony in Hampton for the new Summit Center. Congratulations to them. It's a beautiful building. November 5th, we had our second council meeting with some members that couldn't attend the first one, so now we've met them all. So they're in full swing with their planning, and that's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dawkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. On Wednesday, October 15th, I attended a wonderful event held at the Brunswick Point River Centre. It was hosted by the Brunswick Country Hall of Fame, and the two performers were none other than Grand Bay-Westfield's own members of the Hall of Fame, Alison Inch and Reg Gallant. It was a wonderful event. I counted about 35 people there, maybe 40 at the beginning. It was fantastic. Last Monday, I attended the Planning Advisory Committee meeting, and last Friday, I had the pleasure to attend the Remembrance Day ceremonies held by the students at both the Westfield Elementary School and the Inglewood Schools. And I would be remiss, again, for not mentioning tomorrow's event. It is going to be broadcast live stream by the Legion. Best thing to do is to go on their webpage and look for the link to the YouTube channel or on the towns. I believe it's on the towns as well. But in person, it's not going to rain. I'm an optimist. It's going to be close, but it's not going to rain. Be there by 10:15. At the Veterans Peace.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Day.
Remembrance Day to me is cold, wet, and snow. So good luck tomorrow. I was involved with the basket making program, and we had 12 or 13 ladies came, and I forgot my basket, but it turned out, and I went home with a finished project. And I'm amazed at the number of people that would like to do another one. So if she decides to continue doing the sessions, we're looking at having her come back for another one in the spring. I've attended the age-friendly meetings, and we're busy looking at stuff and our plan and where we're at. And Fiberfest has been growing, and we're getting more people coming to the meetings, which is really nice. And if you knit, crochet, rug hook, wool applique, quilt, you name it with fiber. We meet Thursday nights from 6:30 to 8:30 upstairs, what used to be the seniors room, which we call the River Valley room, and you go in through the tunnel, and we're there. So.
That's great, thank you, Councillor.
No problem. We even had a counselor come to learn how to knit and crochet.
I heard, that's good. Might see the mayor there one day, but you need some very basic beginner lessons, so.
Well, she was doing good.
Excellent. So I've had a busy few weeks. I've met with Minister Chasson of DTI. We spent some time talking about the condition and the funding for Route 177, which is River Valley Drive, Nerepis. Advocating for more attention and more money for that corridor as the main corridor through town. Talking about where we are with the school project and the land acquisition for the school. And of course, the future of the Work Safety Brunswick building, because we don't want a building sitting empty on the edge of town. Those are all points of advocacy that we're working on, and we'll continue to drive that with the government and make sure that we're top of mind for all those three issues. I attended the Federal Ready Program announcement at the St. John Learning Exchange. If you want to see a group doing good work, take some time to get on their Facebook page or their website. This project impacts people across the region, including people right here in Grand Bay-Westfield. So I was thrilled to see some significant federal investment in that program. This month, the legislature also opened, and I had the distinct pleasure of being in Fredericton on that day and attending the Lieutenant Governor's reception. Fall Fest, I know we've all talked about that, and again, I have to thank the Community Vitality Committee and the councillors and the volunteers that are on that. Fall Fest was wonderful. All of the local businesses that were involved were very, the ones I spoke to were very excited about the impact it had on their businesses. It was nice to see everybody involved. And things like the Witches on the Water, Halloween Dog Parade, the Fire Rescue Department open house, the business showcase, all of those things. It was very well attended, everything that I went to, and there was a lot of buzz about that. So thank you to everybody that was involved in putting that together. I also had the distinct pleasure of bringing greetings from the town at the Mennick West Powwow. Again, it's really, really impressive event, and what a display of such a beautiful culture. I felt very honored to be there. Spent last week in Ottawa for FCM Advocacy Days, again trying to bring municipal priorities to the decision makers in Ottawa. Things like infrastructure, RCMP, cell phone coverage, all of those things that are so important to our residents. was able to speak with some key ministers about those and where they should invest funding, particularly that infrastructure piece. As you know, our CFO talked about during the budget meeting, the infrastructure deficit is a real thing. Spent some time with the Fundy Regional Service Commission, just regional transportation meetings and regular commission meetings. The FRSC budget was passed this past week, and our member contribution is less than last year by about $20,000, which is not a story you hear very often, but is good news. The St. John Chamber, the Greater St. John Chamber of Commerce held a business gathering here in Grand Bay-Westfield last week at Highlands Lounge, and that was really, really well attended. So it was nice to see that engagement, and not just from local businesses, but from businesses that came to Grand Bay-Westfield to see what's going on here. So that was really a great gathering. I was very, very pleased with the attendance there. And that's just highlighted some of the things that I've been up to the last couple of weeks. So now we'll move on to item 15, business arising from committee of the whole, and there being none, we'll move on to item 16, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Councilor Burpee, and do I have a second? You guys want to stay here? Councilor Bellman, thank you very much. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to staff and thank you to the council for all your hard work. It's truly appreciated.